I discovered my stepfather was secretly poisoning me and my life was never the same. It started the night I found out I was being poisoned by my own stepfather. The hospital lights flickered above me, the kind that hum softly, pretending to be gentle while they watch you unravel. I could still taste the bitterness of that morning's coffee, burnt metallic wrong. My body was shaking so hard the nurse thought I was seizing. They told me my test results had been tampered with. I remember whispering, tampered by who, and the doctor's eyes darted away. That was 6 months ago. But if I'm honest, it all began long before with Logan, my stepfather, the man everyone said was a genius in medical research. When Mom married Logan, I was 22. I'd just graduated from Columbia, still wearing my college graduation ring every day because it felt like proof that I wasn't a failure. Logan gave a speech at the wedding about family being the ultimate love experiment, the chance to test the limits of love. Everyone laughed. I didn't. He was charming, handsome in that too perfect way that hides something hollow. When he became my mentor at work, I thought it was fate. We both worked at Brenshaw Medical, a biotech firm in Brooklyn Heights. He was the director of research. I was the ambitious junior analyst desperate to prove myself. For months he praised me, said I had the kind of mind that makes the system nervous. But by March last year, everything shifted. I'd been up for promotion, one that came with a $30,000 raise and full health insurance coverage. Logan accidentally forwarded me an internal memo showing my report under his name. A week later, HR called me in. I'd been accused of plagiarism. He framed me. I lost the promotion, my insurance, and within weeks, the stress migraines started stabbing pain behind my eyes, nausea, flashes of light. Logan told my mom I was being dramatic. The first real red flag came during dinner one night, the rainy Tuesday in April. The house smelled like sweaty gym clothes because Anthony, my 17-year-old brother, had left his duffel bag by the table again. I was pushing food around my plate when Logan leaned in and said, "Brooklyn, have you been taking your meds?" "What meds?" I asked. He smiled, that slow, careful smile that made my stomach twist. "The ones Dr. Reese prescribed for your migraines." Except I'd never met a Dr. Reese. Mom frowned, but Logan just changed the subject. I remember thinking it was weird, but I was too tired to fight. The next morning, I made coffee my ritual. 2 sugars, 1 cream. But it tasted bitter. Almost metallic, like old coins. Logan was already in his office, typing furiously. Anthony was getting ready for school. "Did you change the coffee brand?" I asked. "No," Logan said without looking up. "Maybe your taste buds are off, you've been under stress." He said it so casually I believed him. I even laughed. That's how manipulation works. It starts in small, quiet lies. 2 months later, I collapsed at work. My hands went numb. Eye vision blurred. I woke up in the ER. The doctor said my potassium levels were dangerously low, something that shouldn't happen to a healthy 27-year-old. They ran toxicology tests. Everything came back normal. But the results felt too normal. I couldn't explain it, just a gut feeling that something was being hidden. When I told my therapist, Dr. Miller, she leaned forward, pen tapping against her notebook. "Brooklyn, this is classic manipulation," she said. "He's creating dependency, making you doubt your own body." I didn't want to believe it. He was my stepfather. My mentor. The man who helped me pay the $156,000 mortgage after Mom got laid off. 3 weeks after that session, I woke up to find all my medical files missing from my laptop. When I confronted Logan, he looked genuinely hurt. "You think I'd do something like that, Brooklyn? That's paranoid." I remember my hands trembling, the way my graduation ring pressed into my skin when I clenched my fist. "Then where are they?" I demanded. He just sighed. "Maybe you should rest, you've been off lately." That night Anthony knocked on my door. "Brooke," he whispered, eyes wide. "I heard Logan on the phone. He said your test results are already handled." "Handled?" Anthony nodded. "He said no one would believe you." I didn't sleep that night. My body felt electric. Every creak in the house sounded like proof. The next morning, I booked another therapy session. Dr. Miller told me to start documenting everything. Times, smells, tastes, symptoms. "If you're right," she said, "this will be your only defense." So I started writing it all down, the bitter coffee, the metallic taste, the dizzy spells after dinner. And the more I wrote, the more the pieces started to fit. Something was wrong. Deeply, terrifyingly wrong. The first real proof came 3 weeks later, the night of June 12th. I was washing dishes after dinner, staring at the bubbles floating over the sink, when Anthony's voice cracked behind me. "Brooke," he whispered, "I found something." He held up a plastic pill bottle. It had my name on it, Brooklyn Rayner, printed neatly. Except the label said Dr. Reese, prescribing physician. I'd never seen that doctor. Ever. Inside were small, off-white capsules that smelled faintly like bleach. "Where did you get this?" I asked, my throat dry. "In Logan's desk," Anthony said. "Bottom drawer, he's been locking it lately." That was when I felt my stomach turn cold. My body knew before my mind caught up. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in bed scrolling through Google searches, side effects of unknown drugs, falsified prescriptions, hospital whistleblowers. Every result felt like a lifeline and a noose. At 3:12 a.m., I wrote in my notes app, "He's doing something to me." 3 years earlier, things had been so different. Mom had been glowing, newly married, swearing Logan was the best thing that ever happened to us. We used to have family dinners at 7 p.m., sharp as spaghetti, wine, laughter. Logan had a way of making everything sound like a TED talk about success. Structure builds trust, he'd say, and Mom would smile like he'd invented wisdom itself. Back then, I thought I was lucky. I didn't know structure was just his excuse for control. Fast forward to now, every sound in the house made my skin crawl. Logan's footsteps. The slow click of his keyboard in his home office. The smell of his cologne mixed with sweat from his gym clothes that made my head spin. I started skipping meals, pretending to eat, dumping my food in the trash after dinner. Logan noticed. "You're looking thin, Brooklyn," he said one night, swilling his wine like we were in a courtroom. "Are you following Dr. Reese's plan?" I didn't answer. I just stared at him. He smiled that perfect, calm smile that made me want to scream. By late June, I'd lost 12 pounds. My hair started falling out in clumps. I went to an urgent care clinic on 8th Avenue, desperate for answers. The nurse said my blood work looked remarkably clean. Too clean. Almost like someone had scrubbed my medical record. I showed her the prescription bottle. She looked nervous. "Dr. Reese doesn't work here," she said quietly. "We haven't had anyone by that name for 5 years." I felt the room tilt. "Then who prescribed this?" She didn't answer. Just glanced at the hallway, then at the door. "You should leave," she whispered. And now? When I told Mom, she dismissed it. "Logan's just trying to help you manage your stress," she said. "He's been worried about your paranoia." Paranoia. That word cut deeper than any knife. I remember gripping my coffee mug so hard the handle snapped. "You believe him over me?" She sighed. "Brooklyn, you've been having episodes." "I'm not crazy," I shouted. Anthony was standing in the doorway, silent. I saw the fear in his eyes, and not of me, but of Logan. That's when I realized my brother believed me. A few days later, Anthony secretly handed me a flash drive. "I copied his files," he whispered. "He's been tracking your medical tests, and there's something about the delayed treatment protocol." "What does that mean?" I asked. He shrugged, scared. "I don't know, but it's bad." That night, I opened the files on my old laptop. There were hundreds of scanned documents and my test results, blood reports, and insurance forms. The same ones the hospital had supposedly lost. Except every single one had been digitally edited. My potassium levels. My glucose readings. Even my medication logs. Logan had forged everything. I brought the evidence to a lawyer named Harold Dunn, someone Mom trusted. But something felt off. He kept avoiding my calls, missing deadlines, and once I overheard him say, "Don't worry, Logan, it's handled." That was when I realized the lawyer was part of it too. Later, Anthony confirmed it. "I saw Logan give him an envelope," he said. "Full of cash. $156,000. That was the exact amount of our mortgage. It wasn't just a payoff, it was a price tag on my silence. My therapist, Dr. Miller, told me to start preparing for an exit plan. "You're in psychological captivity," she said. "He's isolating you, discrediting you, controlling your environment. It's textbook abuse." I remember crying in her office, shaking so badly I could barely breathe. "How do I get out?" She handed me a notebook. "Start here," she said. "Write everything down. Your body's evidence will fade, but your truth won't." That night, I sat on my bedroom floor, my collar drink cold against my skin, and wrote the words I was terrified to admit. If I disappear, it's because Logan made it happen. And for the first time, I believed it might actually be true. The night everything came crashing down was August 8th that I remember because it was the exact date I should have been giving a presentation at Brensham Medical. Instead, I was lying on my bathroom floor, shaking, tasting bile and bitterness, whispering my own name just to remember who I was. I'd started secretly recording everything: Logan's voice, our conversations, even the sound of him typing in his office. One of the recordings changed everything. He was on the phone. "Yeah, Dr. Reese's files are ready." "No, she doesn't know. She still thinks she's sick." The sound of a lighter clicking, a long exhale. Then, "No one checks when they think they're dying." My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd vomit. He'd been keeping me sick or convincing me I was. I grabbed my laptop, shaking, and opened the flash drive again. Hidden at the bottom was a PDF labeled Trial Bemis 7314. It was a clinical trial consent form, my name forged on it. The test subject me. I wasn't paranoid. I was a participant in Logan's illegal experiment. When I confronted Mom, she looked like I'd slapped her. "Brooklyn, stop," she said, voice trembling. "Logan explained everything. You agreed to this months ago. You just don't remember." "What?" My pulse thundered in my ears. "You think I'd sign up to be poisoned?" "Don't say that word," she snapped. "He's helping you." Her denial broke something in me. For the first time, I saw her not as my mother, but as someone trapped in his illusion too. That night, Anthony came into my room. "I think he's watching us," he whispered. "There's a camera in the vent." We checked. There was a tiny black dot glinting in the darkness. That's when I realized the truth. I'd been living inside a controlled experiment for months. 3 years earlier, I'd written my first research paper on bioethics, the line between innovation and exploitation. I'd never imagined I'd become the case study. I brought the flash drive to Dr. Miller. She played one of the recordings, and her face drained of color. Brooklyn, she said softly, you need to go to the authorities now. I did. I went to the NYPD's 84th precinct the next morning, trembling so hard the officer had to steady my hand as I filled out the report. He promised to look into it. But weeks passed. Nothing happened. Then, suddenly, the evidence disappeared. My report, the recordings, everything. Dunn. Dr. Miller called me in for an emergency session. Brooklyn, she said carefully, someone with influence is burying this, you're dealing with systemic collusion. That was the moment I learned about how Dunn, our family lawyer, leaking confidential information. He'd sent copies of my therapy notes to Logan. I saw the email myself, forwarded accidentally to me. She's unstable, but we can manage her, suggests continuing narrative of psychological delusion. I felt my throat close up reading those words. My trauma, my sessions, my truth, all weaponized. Soon after, whispers started in the neighborhood. Other parents avoided me at school pickup when I tried to help Anthony. I'd see them pull their kids closer, eyes darting away. That's the girl who lied about her stepfather, one woman hissed, loud enough for me to hear. I stopped going out. Even grocery store clerks looked at me differently. I had become a headline without a story, the delusional daughter. Anthony was the only one who stayed by me. He'd bring me meals, make jokes just to see me smile. But I saw the fear in his face too. He knew how dangerous Logan was. One night, I found a hospital billing statement in the mail at $24,700 from a private clinic I'd never visited. Listed under experimental neurological treatment. Logan had used my insurance under my name. When I tried to call the clinic, they said I'd been discharged 2 months ago. I demanded my medical records. They refused. That's when Dr. Miller connected me with a journalist, someone named Sasha King from the Ledger. Sasha started digging. Within a week, she called me in tears. Brooklyn, this goes deep. Logan's not just experimenting on you. There are 3 other patients with altered results, all from Brincher Medical. I remember feeling my knees buckle. So I wasn't the only one. No, she said. But you're the only one still alive. Her words echoed for days. Anthony begged me to leave the house. Please, Brooke, let's just go. He's dangerous. But I couldn't. I needed proof. I needed people to believe me. So I waited. I watched. And then, one night during dinner, Logan slipped something into my glass. He thought I didn't see. But I did. I swapped glasses when he looked away. That night, he was the one who got sick. Vomiting, sweating, pale as death. I watched him writhe on the floor, whispering prayers he didn't believe in. I didn't help him. I just watched. For the first time, I wasn't the experiment. And that's when I knew what I had to do next. I had to expose him. Publicly. Because monsters like Logan don't hide in the dark. They hide in plain sight. The confrontation happened at St. Gabriel's Church, September 3rd, 7:24 p.m. It was my mother's baptism anniversary, a ceremony Logan insisted we all attend as a family. The irony was suffocating. Candles flickered along the marble aisles, incense hung thick in the air, and the choir sang something about salvation. I stood in the back pew, my hands trembling around the small flash drive that contained every lie, every falsified test, every voice recording. I hadn't planned to make a scene. But when Logan took the microphone to say a few words about faith and perseverance, something inside me snapped. He started with his usual calm charm of faith, he said, smiling at the congregation, is believing in what we cannot see even when others doubt us. I stood up. My voice came out shaky but loud enough to cut through the hymns. Like falsified bloodwork. The room went silent. Logan froze. His eyes found me instantly. Brooklyn, he said softly, let's not do this here. But I was done being quiet. I stepped into the aisle, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself. You used me as a test subject, I said. You altered my medical files, you poisoned me. Gasps rippled through the pews. My mother's face went ghost white. The priest lowered his hands. Even Anthony, sitting near the front, stood up slowly like he couldn't believe I was really doing it. Brooklyn, sweetheart there. Mom started, but I cut her off. No, Mom, he's been lying to us. He made up a fake doctor, Dr. Reese. He's been running illegal experiments. Look. I held up the flash drive. Every file, every recording, I have it all. Logan's mask cracked. Just for a second, a flash of rage before he smiled again. This is exactly what I was telling everyone, he said calmly, turning to the crowd. She's been struggling with delusions. Play it. Anthony shouted suddenly. He pulled out his phone, connected it to the church speakers, and hit play. Logan's voice filled the room. No one checks when they think they're dying. The congregation erupted whispers, gasps, murmurs of oh my god, and is that real? Logan lunged forward, grabbing Anthony's arm, hissing, turn it off. But Anthony yanked away. Don't touch me, he yelled. The priest tried to intervene, but Mom fainted before he could reach her. Chaos exploded. People scrambled for their phones. Some started filming. Others whispered to each other like it was a reality show gone wrong. I walked straight up to Logan, my body shaking but my voice steady. You took everything from me, my job, my health, my sanity. You tried to rewrite who I am. He leaned in close, his breath sour and hot. You think this will change anything? No one's going to believe a hysterical girl with panic attacks. That word hysterical hit like a slap. I took a deep breath loud enough for everyone to hear and said, Dr. Miller calls that projection, classic manipulation. You made me doubt my own reality, not anymore. I turned to the crowd. He's been experimenting on people from Brencha Medical. 3 others there gone now, dead. Look it up. The police were called before the ceremony even ended. Outside, flashing red and blue lights painted the church steps. I could still hear people whispering. That's her, the stepfather. Did you hear the recording? My God, she's been telling the truth. As officers escorted Logan out in handcuffs, he looked at me and smiled. You have no idea who you're up against, he said quietly. This isn't over. And in that moment, I believed him. But something changed in me too. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. The fallout was instant. Local news picked up the story that night. Medical director arrested for data tampering and experimental abuse. My face was blurred in every segment, but everyone still knew it was me. Some people reached out with apologies. Others avoided me even more. My mother wouldn't answer my calls for weeks. The church video went viral online of me screaming at the altar. Logan being dragged away, Anthony holding up the phone like proof of a ghost. People called me brave, unhinged, unstable, and heroic, sometimes all in the same breath. But I didn't care. Because for the first time in years, the truth was louder than his lies. Still, as I watched him being led into the squad car, I felt a chill. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't over. He'd built connections in every institution that was supposed to protect me. He'd paid off lawyers, erased evidence, twisted stories. And even though he was in handcuffs, I couldn't shake the feeling that his reach extended far beyond those flashing lights. That night, I went home, locked every door, and sat on the floor beside Anthony. We didn't talk. We didn't eat. We just listened to the silence, heavy, unfamiliar, almost sacred. For the first time, it was our silence, not his. And I whispered to myself, it's finally starting to end. The days after the confrontation were worse than anything I had imagined. The arrest footage had gone viral. My name, Brooklyn Rayner, was everywhere: social media, local news, even national outlets. But instead of relief, I felt exposure. People didn't see a victim, they saw a spectacle. Parents at Anthony's school still avoided me. At pickup, I could feel them stiffen, their whispers slicing through the air. That's the girl whose stepdad tried to poison her. My face burned every time. Even strangers gave me cautious glances, some recoiling as if I carried disease. At work, Brencha Medical called a security review meeting. My old colleagues gave me side-eyed looks. Some offered murmured sympathy, but others whispered in corners. One even asked, did you really believe him? The stress migraines came back, stronger. The nausea, the sleepless nights, the panic attacks, they returned as if my body refused to forgive my mind for surviving. I lost more than social approval. My $156,000 mortgage felt like a cage. With Logan's manipulations exposed, I realized he'd been funneling money to make us dependent. Mom refused to talk about finances, leaving Anthony and me to juggle bills with dwindling savings. The medical sabotage had taken another toll. My potassium imbalance worsened, my GI system rebelled. Every hospital visit reminded me that my body had been rewritten by someone I once trusted. And every visit made it clear the system was slow, bureaucratic, and painfully indifferent. Even therapy felt insufficient. Dr. Miller worked tirelessly with me, but I couldn't stop the recurring nightmares. I'd wake up choking, drenched in sweat, convinced I was still ingesting some invisible poison. Every sound in the house, Logan's old cologne on Anthony's jacket, a creak in the floorboards, triggered hypervigilance. Then came the betrayal I hadn't anticipated, the lawyer. Dunn, the one we had trusted to protect us, had continued to leak information even after Logan's arrest. Anthony found emails on Mom's old laptop sent to Logan while he was in custody. Keep her afraid. The court will hear what she claims she knows, but she can't prove it. Payment processed. I stared at the screen, shaking. The man who had sworn an oath to protect our family had sold us out for money. For greed. For $30,000 in cold, filthy cash. Dr. Miller explained it clearly. Brooklyn, every layer of trust you build has been exploited. This isn't just trauma, it's betrayal layered on betrayal. Your mind has been rewired to doubt everything and everyone. That's why the panic, the nightmares, the isolation, your nervous system is on constant alert. Some nights I couldn't tell where reality ended and paranoia began. I checked my food obsessively, tasted everything before swallowing. Even Anthony started eating in silence, afraid to trigger another panic attack. We avoided friends. We avoided family. The public scrutiny didn't help. People online labeled me dramatic or unhinged. Some even questioned whether Logan had really poisoned me. Articles questioned my credibility, how much of Brooklyn Rayner's story is real. I spent hours staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, my college graduation ring heavy on my finger. My reflection looked hollow. My eyes were rimmed with red from crying, my hair falling out in strands, my body weak. And yet, a tiny ember of rage burned beneath the despair. Financially, emotionally, socially, medically, I was at rock bottom. Anthony was my only tether, his 17-year-old hands gripping mine when panic struck. I remember one night, curled on the bathroom floor, whispering, I can't do this, Tony. I can't breathe. I can't trust anyone. He shook his head, his own tears dripping into the cold tile. Yes, you can, Brooke. You have to. You're not alone. But I didn't believe him. I had lost the house. I had lost my career. My friends abandoned me, or at least they thought they did. and my own mother refused to face the truth of Logan's actions. Even therapy offered only glimpses of hope. Dr. Miller introduced me to exposure techniques, controlled exercises to handle triggers, grounding exercises for panic attacks, journaling to map reality versus manipulation. But each session felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. And yet, amidst the wreckage, I realized something. Every betrayal, every manipulation, every sleepless night, it had created a story worth surviving. I started small. One meal I ate without checking for toxins. One email sent to a lawyer verifying our finances. One walk outside without scanning the streets for hidden cameras. But progress was painfully slow. And some nights I still slept on the bathroom floor, Anthony curled beside me, just to feel human. I knew the road back would be long. I knew I'd have to rebuild trust brick by brick, starting with myself. But at that lowest point, something inside me hardened. Even as my body quaked and my mind screamed, a thought emerged. I survived him. I survived the lies. I survived betrayal on every front. I will survive everything else. And for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine life beyond fear, beyond Logan, beyond Dunn, beyond the suffocating social whispers. It took almost a year to feel like I was breathing again. Not just surviving, not just existing, but actually living. The first step was leaving New York entirely. Anthony and I sold the house, paid off the remaining mortgage of $156,000 worth of bricks and betrayal, and moved across the country to Seattle, where no one knew our names. Therapy became the foundation of my new life. Dr. Miller and I worked through every flashback, every nightmare, every moment of panic. We tracked triggers, rebuilt routines, and to slowly rewire my thinking. I learned to differentiate reality from manipulation, to taste my coffee without suspicion, to eat dinner without measuring every bite. I started small. Morning coffee at a tiny cafe near Pike Place Market, bitter but real, no poison, no lies. I held my graduation ring tightly that first week, a talisman of the stuff I thought Logan had stolen. Each sip reminded me I had survived the impossible. I also began volunteering at a local women's health center, sharing my story carefully, without names, focusing on awareness of medical abuse. The first time a woman hugged me after telling me she felt seen, I cried on the spot. For the first time, my trauma had purpose. Travel became my therapy. I wanted to see the world beyond paranoia and whispers. By spring, Anthony and I booked flights to Italy. Venice first, to the canals glittering in the morning sun, the smell of fresh bread, the taste of espresso strong enough to make my lips pucker. I walked along bridges and felt my lungs fill with freedom for the first time in years. Rome followed, Florence, Santorini, Kyoto. Every city, every alley, every new flavor reminded me that the world was bigger than Logan, bigger than betrayal, bigger than fear. I started writing again, journaling my travels, my recovery, my anger, and my gratitude. Each word was a declaration. I'm not broken. I am here. I exist. I reconnected with old friends cautiously. Some had been lost to the scandal, some had been too afraid to speak. I forgave selectively, understanding that trust was a choice, not a given. Anthony and I grew closer than ever, leaning on each other as partners in survival. Financial independence was next. I landed a position at a small biotech startup in Seattle. They were wary of my background at first. Everyone had heard the story. But I didn't hide it, they shared it. And they valued my resilience, my insight into medical ethics, and my experience navigating manipulation at the highest level. By the end of the year, I was debt-free, secure, and most importantly, unafraid to advocate for myself. My panic attacks had lessened, my nightmares came only occasionally, and I could now ground myself without relying on medication. One evening in Santorini, watching the sun sink into the Aegean, Anthony asked me why I kept wearing my graduation ring. I turned it slowly on my finger, its weight familiar and comforting. It reminds me, I said softly, that I earned my place in the world. Logan tried to take that from me, from us, but he didn't succeed. I still have my mind, my courage, my body, and I've rebuilt everything he tried to destroy. He smiled, and I realized something. Surviving was no longer just about endurance. It was about transformation. Logan had taught me cruelty, but the world had taught me strength. By my 28th birthday, I had traveled to 10 countries, seen mountains, oceans, deserts, and cities I hadn't imagined in years of fear-filled nights. I had discovered my inner strength not in revenge, not in hatred, but in reclaiming life one deliberate choice at a time, choosing safe food, choosing therapy, choosing travel, choosing love and trust slowly but surely. I wrote about the experience for an online platform, anonymized, hoping to help someone else trapped in manipulation. The comments flooded in. I thought I was alone. Thank you for giving me hope. You make me feel seen. For the first time, my trauma became a source of connection rather than shame. And yet, Logan's shadow still lingers. He's in prison, but the ripple of his manipulation touches everything he left behind. But every time I feel fear, I remind myself of Venice at sunrise, of the bitter coffee I can finally drink without suspicion, of the freedom in my body, my mind, and my spirit. I survived, rebuilt, and discovered that the truest victory isn't revenge, it's reclaiming your life. I travel now not to escape, but to live. Every city, every taste, every smell is a reminder I am Brooklyn. I am free. I am unstoppable.